Morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me as we take a look at your work week forecast for the first week in December. And it's like all of a sudden winter has descended upon us with the snow. For a lot of us, not everybody in southern Vermont has snow. Certainly lower elevations don't, but certainly right where I live, we have a pretty good amount of snow after last week's storm, and it's sticking around. Whatever you've got will stick around this week. We may even get a little bit more of it. Temperatures will be on the cool side, definitely a little bit below average for this time of year this week, although we're certainly heading into the time of year when it can be quite cold. And next weekend, particularly Friday, Saturday, looks quite cold and quite breezy with some pretty not nasty wind chills, but cold wind chills. We're definitely headed towards winter. We may have a little bit more snow as well this week. So let's take a look at the overall kind of satellite imagery. And you can see what's going on here across the eastern two-thirds of the country, really over the northern part of the country here, as we have basically a big trough. You can basically see it. Clouds heading north out to sea, and we're kind of right in the center of the trough. This is unlike the weather pattern that we saw for a lot of the fall. Things are now moving, and so this trough is going to kind of center itself over the top of us. And a weak system now is going to kind of develop into a pretty good clipper system, which is going to impact our weather Wednesday night into Thursday with some light snow. With some light snow, basically everything that falls will almost certainly be in the form of snow with this system. There is a chance for some more snow in those in some areas that we'll talk about specifically, but basically the western facing slopes of the greens where upslope snow could be a thing. That's where already we've still been picking up some light accumulations over time. Not many people live in these places, but over time with the lake effect snow that's been kind of somewhat impacting us, with in some of those areas. Most of us have seen a few flurries from that, but yeah, that's basically what's going on. Let's take a quick look at that radar. You can see the lake effect snow machine has shifted a little bit south as the wind direction has changed a little bit this morning, and it has shut off, not really shut off, but it has quieted down a little, especially off of Lake Ontario, Watertown, and the Tugho Plateau, where they often get tons of lake effect snow and have gotten tons of lake effect snow. Is shut down a little bit. But it is still certainly happening some. The lake effect machine will get going again later on in the week and certainly into next weekend as we get another really gusty situation coming in. And as we'll have to kind of see what happens wind direction wise as to how much of that actually we get flurries in here. We really don't get accumulating snow, except for, like I said, some of those places where you get the upsloping effect on the western sides of the greens can be problematic, and it doesn't really impact many people where we live. That's mostly in the Green Mountain National Forest where that happens, with the exception of some of the through roads that happen. Route 9, Route 11, certainly it can be problematic there. Up towards Route 4 can sometimes be problematic in that regard as well, where you might run into some snow where you wouldn't necessarily be expecting it. So that's sort of what's going on. Let's take a quick look at the overall pattern. You can see big trough. This is mid-level, and you can see lots of energy, lots of different pieces. A big trough over eastern, or over just over kind of the North Pacific. I almost called that the Atlantic, but that's definitely the Pacific. The trough, like I said, is kind of in place for the week. We're kind of in the not so busy section of the trough, as we're kind of in the center of this wide trough that extends out into the North Atlantic right now. But it does give us a chance to see the impacts, like I said, from that clipper system. Temperatures quite cold, particularly to our west, but cold all the way across the northern half of the country. We've really cooled off really everywhere. The only places we're seeing some warmer temperatures now are really right down along the Gulf Coast, where it never really gets that cold. Florida, South Texas, places like that. Everybody else is at least cooled off into the 40s, a lot of 20s across the northern part of the country. Some of these single numbers and teens will be headed in our direction, particularly for next weekend. But we're going to be kind of stuck in these teens or 20s after we start off in the teens most days this week. Here's our storm track for later in the week. So we call this a clipper because it comes, generally starts in Alberta, Canada, and then oftentimes kind of clips across the country. And so they're called, these types of low pressure systems can be quite strong, and this one will be quite strong. A lot of energy associated with this, but not a lot of moisture because it's just got no moisture to tap, right? It comes across Canada into the Pacific, or off the Pacific into Canada, across the Rockies, and that kind of saps all the moisture out of the system, and then it tends to dive. This one's actually heading a little further north, the track-wise, than some of them do. Sometimes they head a little bit further to the south here. And as that happens, we have the chance to pick up snow. Now, when they head to our north like this, the snow that we get will almost kind of be like a front. So there's definitely some chances on Wednesday night and into Thursday during the day for some snow showery activity. It's probably, I put light snow kind of in the forecast, and it will be overall a light snowfall, but it could fall heavily at times. You're going to have to kind of just be careful if you're traveling on Wednesday night or Thursday, just because you could run into a quick place where we get a pretty heavy burst of snow briefly, or a couple of rounds of that. It could add up to a couple inches, maybe 3 or 4 in some of the favored spots over that time, but it's not kind of a steady snow. It'll be hit or miss. We could get a period of steadier snow, but I think for the most part, it's going to kind of feel like showers. Sometimes these systems, the only time these systems are really to worry about is when they kind of dig a little further south, and then they kind of can sometimes redevelop off the coast. This one is not going to do that. It's going to stay well to our north, as you can see with the storm track there. Let's take a look, and it's pretty locked in. There could be some minor changes in it, but it won't change the forecast much. So basically, mix of sun and clouds the next couple of days. Could be a couple of flurries on the high elevations with some of those lake effect bands almost making their way here. Same could be true on Wednesday. Temperatures basically are pretty much the same. Gradually, maybe a tiny bit warmer by the middle of the week as we head towards around freezing. But basically, we're going to stay below freezing. This is great for the ski areas. Really good snowmaking conditions for them, which is just what they need to build those bases, get things going. Trail counts should be coming up quite quickly this week. Thursday, Wednesday night into Thursday, that's where that light snow happens. We'll talk about amounts. I don't have a snowfall map for you yet. I'll probably Wednesday morning I'll have a snowfall map for you, but generally a 2 to 4 inch snowfall. I think some of the places east of the greens, it's more like coating to a couple of inches of snow. So certainly if you live kind of certainly along the Connecticut River, and places as you head just west of there, you have to kind of get up into the hills before you'd say more like 1 to 3. Probably where I live, more like 2 to 4 if you live on the western side of the greens. And then if you're down kind of in the Route 7 corridor, you get shadowed a little bit by the Teutonics. So there, you probably again only 1 to 3 inches or so. So that's sort of what we're talking about there. Light snow, windy on Friday and cold. We start off about 24. We kind of stay there, and the afternoon temperatures drop. Wind chills on Friday evening and into Saturday morning could definitely be approaching like 0 or a little bit below. So it's going to feel like winter, really like winter. So not terrible, not like Arctic, icy, worst that we get kind of cold. And we are into December, so it can get quite cold, but we're not also quite chilly though. Yeah. Let's take a quick look at the actual forecast here. Oops, before we get to the highlights. Oh, I was on the forecast. Let's get to the highlights. Sorry about that. Seasonably cold week. Clipper system will impact our area with snow Wednesday night into Thursday. I don't think we probably don't start with any of this until probably after sundown on Wednesday. We'll get timing more locked in for you. Like I said, with that forecast Wednesday morning that I'm going to put out for you. Generally 2 to 4 inches of snow look likely, except for the western slopes of the Green Mountains. There could be some spots that even got up to 6, 7, 8 inches. Again, that would be kind of the ski areas. The tops of the ski areas might kind of get that. And maybe some, probably not even anywhere where you drive. So that's why it's not there. That's why I didn't put that there. A brief shot of even colder air impacts the area Friday afternoon through the weekend, particularly Saturday. Sunday starts to moderate a little bit. Friday will also bring some strong winds. We'll have to keep an eye on exactly how strong those winds get. Right now, they look like we're going to gust to 30 to maybe 40 miles an hour. That's not really enough to cause problems, but any higher than that, you could start to be a little concerned about a power outage or two. Not too worried about that, but we'll keep an eye on that just in case as we head through the week. The cold weather definitely looks to continue through the weekend. The active pattern looks to continue. Exactly what that looks like going forward into next week in terms of any storms on the horizon. A little too early to kind of tell. But basically, it looks like an active winter type of pattern. So we'll have to keep an eye out for some more any kind of impact storms in terms of snow and ice and things like that. All right. Thanks for supporting the channel. Thank you for my patrons who help support the channel. I really appreciate them. If you're interested in becoming a patron, there's a link in the description below. It talks about how you can do that, how you can support the channel. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel before, I'd encourage you to do so. Helps make sure you don't miss any of my videos. I will be back on Wednesday morning with a look at my forecast for the storm on Wednesday night into Thursday. I don't think there'll be much in the way of impacts in terms of the school delays, maybe a delay or two, but I don't think too high impact there. And then I will also on Wednesday get a weekend forecast out, but that's only for my patrons. So if you're interested in my weekend forecast that comes out on Wednesday, check out the Patreon page that talks about how you can become one and get that forecast. All right, we'll see you on Wednesday morning.